Now, because so many people have been debating on if David Benavidez versus David Morrell is a pay-per-view worthy fight, I'd like to go over a couple pros and cons while also breaking down why this debate actually holds weight. Okay, for starters, I know many people, preferably Canelo fans, would like to run with the narrative that David Benavidez should be facing Arthur Beterbiev rather than Morrell, and although I can agree that Benavidez shouldn't have been so vocal on fighting for undisputed, one thing folks gotta understand is the same ones who said Canelo had every right to ask for $200 million were the same ones claiming that Benavidez was avoiding David Morrell Jr. Let's not bullshit here. That is a fact. Now, I get that Morrell claiming Benavidez was ducking him could have motivated that narrative in suspicion, but in this day and age where we barely receive any blockbuster or marquee matchups, there is no way you can critique Benavidez for taking this fight. You just can't. I mean, Beterbiev and B-Ball just fought in October, and people were already invested in the rematch once the final bell rung. So that alone not only canceled Benavidez out, but everyone has a right to do what's best for him, even if your name isn't Canelo or Tank. Check it out. From a promotional standpoint, David versus David is definitely a persuasive matchup and a good look for someone like Benavidez, who's making a way for himself as a household name outside of a fight with Canelo. I said it 2 years ago, man, when Morrell started hollering the Mexican Monster's name. This shit is like Jason versus Michael Myers. And y'all see Morrell with that Michael Myers cut? Like, look at him across from Benavidez. Dude looks like his evil twin. It's almost like they created this motherfucker in a lab. Fucking Logan versus X-24 in this bitch. Add that in with the fact that when you size up the two fighters, it's understandable why some may believe that this could be the biggest test of David Benavidez's career. Let's look at the resume. His last fight was against Vosdick, who is definitely bigger but is up there in age and was coming off a long layoff. His opponent before that was Boo Boo Andrade, who moved up from 160 to 168 to face Benavidez, and then before that there was Caleb Plant, who was definitely a solid matchup and gave Benavidez somewhat a run for his money, but none of those guys possess the power that Morrell carries, and if we're talking boxing ability, his Cuban background makes him just as good if not better than all three in my opinion, give or take Caleb Plant. Yeah, Benavidez might be an inch taller than Morrell, but Morrell having a 4-inch reach advantage makes them even from a physical standpoint. Of course, there's a southpaw versus orthodox factor that more than likely favors Benavidez, but how sure are we that that is the case here? You know, there are plenty pros when you stand the two side by side. However, the biggest con here is that Morrell's resume is very light, giving Benavidez a massive advantage in experience, which is something Team Benavidez pointed out time and time again when they told everyone Morrell wasn't ready. The thing is, Morrell wanted this fight and has been confident that he's the counterpart for the said Mexican Monster. So if you're David Benavidez, this is more of a why not situation, you know? Why not face a guy who keeps calling me out? Why not give my fans something they can be invested in for the time being? Why not give another fighter a chance to make some money? Judging by this earlier Instagram post, Benavidez definitely seems confident, which could indicate that maybe deep down, he still believes Morrell is green, but that's neither here nor there. So if you think this is a mismatch, I can see where you're coming from. No one's here to dispute that. For example, I'm sure we all remember when everyone was hyped up to see Erickson Lubin step foot in there with Jermell Charlo, only for us to blink and realize that it was an even bigger mismatch than we all anticipated. But this past August showed us why someone with only 11 fights could give one of the best pound for pound fighters a run for his money, even if Bud was the one moving up to face the champion in Madrima. See, but that goes back to my first point and why Benavidez holding off on this fight would have just had him being the Crawford to everyone's Boots Ennis, who everyone now realizes is nowhere near ready for Bud. Difference here is the contracts are already signed and this fight is happening. It's a given though. David Morrell didn't look very impressive in his last outing, but according to some, Benavidez didn't really look that good in his last fight either. But we gotta remember that each of those bouts were debuts at the light heavyweight division, furthermore proving that the stars have aligned for them to finally meet and make this matchup. Now, not only did the face-off get a little heated, but after wrapping up the first press conference, one thing I think that stood out to most was that David Morrell was a bit nervous given the fact that he just kept rambling and having these random outbursts. Many feel he was nervous, and although I do agree, I think it was more so the stage that was getting to him rather than Benavidez himself or the actual fight. The reason I say that is because Benavidez is adamant and repetitively said that he's going to break David Morrell's jaw. And even though he may really mean it, what I registered from Morrell's fast talking Spanish and broken down English is that he was trying to tell Benavidez that Benavidez doesn't have the same power at 175 that he had at 168, since Benavidez couldn't stop Volstick. So Morrell was implying that he doesn't believe Benavidez when Benavidez sat up there and said that he's not letting the fight go to the scorecards. Yo, that comes across as very interesting to me and may be cause to raise an eyebrow here, because with Morrell alluding to that, could it mean that he's planning on going in there and outboxing David Benavidez? Also, with Benavidez making such a statement, could that mean that he's aware of what Morrell's approach will be come fight night? Could it be that maybe Benavidez feels a knockout is his only path to victory? Now, I don't want to read too deep in between the lines, but there's a lot of ways to look at that exchange. I will say this though. Throughout all the trash talk and back and forth, the one thing I noticed in both stare downs was this smirk they both gave each other. Like neither can help but smile even when talking shit. I know David Benavidez tried to give him the death stare, but he quickly laughed it off, as well as Morrell. Add that in with the fact that they also shook hands up at the podium, and to me that's a clear indication that both of them do have respect for each other, but obviously understand the task that's at hand. Either way, the entertainment factor for the build-up seems to be in progress, and for now, all we can do is see how all of this unfolds. Pop off!